All right, guys, welcome to the Men Made for More podcast. Joined with a special guest today, Jeff Arnold. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on today.
Dave, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to do the show with you.
Yeah, I'm excited for listeners to hear more about your story, what you're up to, a couple of the books you've put out, and just going to be a lot of good content coming your guys' way today. So why don't you kind of give a Cliff Notes version of your background with business specifically, and some of the books you've written, and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. Thanks for the intro there. So, written 3 books. Been fortunate enough for 2 of them to be bestsellers on Amazon. The third one is yet to be seen, but fingers crossed. But it was a circuitous route that led to being an author, and even in business. I'll do the Cliff Notes. So briefly, because I am an aged man, but we'll try to sort it. I grew up in Western Kentucky, right? So really, really small towns of Western Kentucky. 4 generations of my family were men of the cloth, or preachers, as you would call them. I'm the first one in 5 generations not to, and they still don't understand why I write or get paid by the written word, or am so involved in legal contracts of an insurance. So that's okay though, right? But just to summarize the end of it, of the Cliff Notes version there, been in the insurance business, really buying and selling insurance agencies and companies, a couple of insurance companies, for 31 years. Um, uh, Made any dreams that I've had for me and my family really come true. And so I think if you're passionate about anything, you can turn anything into a wonderful business. And it's been wonderful for me and wonderful for my family. Not trying to brag to your listeners, but just saying, it's provided us a very nice life.
Yeah, and I love that you're here to speak on that too, because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people either running a business already, or a lot of people even too have feedback of the people that are want to start that business. They have this passion, but they don't really know how to, how to maybe get started with it, or if they can actually earn a living doing what they want to do. It's a scary jump for someone to leave something secure, or what's seen as secure, and step into that. What would you recommend to someone who's has that passion to, what's that spark that's needed to help them take that step, to have the confidence to do that, and the resources as well? What advice would you give to someone like that?
Yeah, well, first of all, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? Right. It's what sets the weak apart from the strong, right? It is not an easy leap. It is not a journey for the weak, right? It really isn't, because you in the entrepreneurial space, every skill set you have is going to be tested. Every leadership understanding you have is going to get turned up on its head, right? And anything that you study about it could be obsolete in a year or two, right? So that being said, not to be pessimistic, but if you're looking for something to challenge you every day that you wake up, before your feet hit the ground, you're going to renew yourself in some skill set. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Starting your own business is the thing to do. There's a quote. I'm going to mess it up, but it's light yourself on fire with passion, and people will come from miles to watch you burn. Right. I may have paraphrased it, but the moment that people see that passion and that energy into you, no matter what you're doing, they'll beat a path to your door. Maybe not be as fast as you want it, right?
Mhm.
Again, if it was that easy, everyone would do it. But if anybody that has a passion like you or I or anyone listening, any of your listeners, the world will find you and they will reward you for sure. So I would
Mhm.
say the short version is the old Nike ad, just do it, man, right? Get out there and do it. So
It really is, yeah. And there's never going to be that perfect time. People wait for things to be just right, and that's one of the things that keeps so many people from doing it. Like you said, it's not easy. There's never going to be a comfortable time to do it, but that's the importance, I think, of linking up something you're passionate about and something you can make money with, is key to that, of not just chasing the money, because it's gonna make for a difficult journey. And if you run into some of that with either yourself or friends or people you've worked with, of people chasing the money, what happens when money becomes the focus and there's not that passion tied along with it?
yeah, so anything as shallow as just going after things or money will get old real quick. There's never enough, right? I think most people relate to that. One house you want two, 2 houses you want three, 3 houses you want all of them bigger. And so, if stuff is just what you're after and putting more of that into your life, then I would just counsel you that you may need to rethink what's going on between your ears, right? Something is off, right? You're trying to fix something else, right? So step back. So that's just my guidance as an old man, we'll call it, but
Wise man.
an experienced person, right?
Yeah.
You would be a party of one that's called be a wise man. I might take that and show my kids this, but
Replay it.
but you know the thing, Dave, is the thing about entrepreneurs, and you know this, you have to motivate yourself too, right? If you can't motivate yourself, then this, it's not a career for you, because people are not standing behind cheerleading. You're going to make very difficult decisions that are going to be in disagreements and at odds with people above you, below you, beside you, vendors, partners. And you got to stand strong in that. You have to have a conviction, and so it's not an easy path. Again, it is mostly uphill, pushing the rock, but very well worth it.
Yes, so true. And it's for people that have been on that roller coaster, we'll call it, is it's the ultimate personal growth journey, though, of if you're trying to improve your leadership, if you're trying to improve you see what you're capable of doing in this life. It's one of the best ways to do it, because it's gonna challenge you, it's gonna stretch you, it's gonna force you into things that you wouldn't normally do and out of your comfort zone, which is where so much good growth happens. So I love how you summarize some of that, in total agreement with that. And for the people that are on that journey now, that roller coaster, and whatever, people at different stages of business, I want to hear a little more about your thoughts on customer experience, as we were talking a little before, of something that's missing so much in so many businesses, kind of a lost art, if you will. What's can you give me a summary of your new book that you wrote specifically on this, and how and why customer experience is so important for anyone in any kind of business?
Yeah, I think, and you don't have to go too far to see abysmal, pathetic, horrible customer experiences, right? Sorry for those explanations or adjectives, what have you. It's a pandemic. We're in a pandemic, and it's a pandemic, right?
Yes.
And it's a systemic issue, um, mostly in a lot of larger companies, but it exists in small companies too, right? And by the way, nobody sets out to deliver a bad customer service experience, because if you ask everyone, hey, what kind of good customer service do you give? They say, I deliver a great customer service experience, right? And so what we as business leaders and executives fail to do so many times is to tell them exactly what a good customer experience looks like. And I'll go real deep down a rabbit hole if I can with you for your listeners for a second. And so we have 50 to 70 people at any time in one of our call centers. And so if you asked all of them what their service experience was, it would be, we do -10s to +10s. +10 is the best you can get. Oh, it's all +10s. Well, they no longer get to decide what a +10 is. And so again, I'm going to go deep into rabbit hole, but a +10 experience in our business, you can retrofit it to yours and your listeners to theirs, is no call is cold transferred to anyone. Like, so we're in the insurance space, right? You don't just transfer a call to claims. That's a miserable experience, right? People want to be helped. They're most vulnerable. That's the point of the promise. So you warm transfer to there. There are absolutely no voicemails. An insurance operation without voicemails is a fantastic insurance operation. No one can hide, right? And so we eliminate that. We eliminate the people hiding. You just take care of them. So warm transfers, no voicemails, right? Those are fantastic. And then just a simple salutation that recognizes the user, right? For a number of times they've been a customer of yours or a policyholder or whatever. It's about 5 separate benchmarks that we use. But now let's just pivot for a second and go through a drive-through experience. Let's just take your favorite that you go through, and it's could just be a kid going through school. All they're really about is the Benjamins clocking in and clocking out and getting the dollars, right? I'm trying to sound cool to the younger group saying the Benjamins.
Love it.
It may come off horribly wrong, but anyway. Now you compare and contrast that with someone who's had a deep level of knowledge transfer happen, say at a Chick-fil-A, where no one takes an order until they get this phrase right. It's my pleasure to serve you, Dave, right? You go through and you experience that. And they go through a series of trainings that's just 4 or 5 of those to transform the customer experience. And so my new book is about building better businesses. And it's really, you can boil it down to get out of your office, get out of your corner office, and get engaged in every section of your company that your clients are experiencing with your people, right? And there's pain points all along the way, and your people may need to change their script, or they may need to change, or you may need to change your people. But that matters, right? It absolutely matters, because we will tell 10 people if we have a bad experience. We'll only tell one or two if we have a good experience, right? But we'll shout it from the rooftops also if we have a great experience. And nowadays with social media, you can really shout with a large megaphone. So I could go deeper into all those things, but there's a quick summary about how we just transform the cultures of what's done in our business and how it's done, right? It's not done by a mission statement on the wall. It's done by the interaction with every single customer walking in your door or visiting your website.
And it sounds, and I got a lot of good points I want to follow up on. But it sounds like one of the big mistakes for leaders would be being too far removed from that process. So maybe they have a mission statement up, but how important is it for the leader to be in the day to day of the business to really see those things versus delegating out to customer service or to other employees?
Yeah, be involved. And I know it's tough. Look, the bigger your business gets, the more you're in the numbers, and the more you're in the projections, and the more you're trying to make payroll or get, cars on the road or whatever, right? And the amount of activities you have grows exponentially, right? The bigger you get. I get that. But I also live by another statement that says it's better for your desk to be dusty than your troops to be rusty, right? And so make sure you're always sharpening the saw and engaging your people. I try to get out 2 times a month, completely away from the office, not so much in pandemic, and just on the front lines, listen to people and catching a couple things. One, catching them doing some stuff really, really good, right? For that moment of, congrats, you really got this right. And finding a teachable moment, right? Again, it doesn't have to be where you destroy the person. You just find a way where they're not doing it exactly the way you want, and you correct the behavior without destroying the person by using skills that you develop along the way. But mostly, tell them what they did right, tell them where they're wrong and where you want them to be, and that goes a long way. Every generation wants improvement, and they want to improve themselves and their skill set, young to old, right? The problem is there's so few coaches willing to give that radical candor feedback, right? They want to hide behind either the title and just it's this way, or they just don't have the skill set to give that feedback. People crave it, man. They absolutely do. They crave the good and the bad. They want to do the right thing, and they're not afraid to hear the bad. You just have to deliver it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Would you say, you mentioned a couple things there. You mentioned maybe not having the skill set or hiding behind a title. Is one of those seem to, in your experience, seem to stand out more? Is it an ego thing or pride thing of like, I'm above this, or do you see it more as just it's uncomfortable to work with people and to, really like relationships take effort, and that's with our employees, with our customers, with those things too. Sometimes it's easier to acquire and then just move on. Do you see one of those being more of an issue than the other?
I think they're both relative, right? Like some people, it's a personality trait. They just avoid confrontation or avoid the teachable moments, right? And some people are more comfortable hiding behind a keyboard or hiding behind a phone delivering counsel message. I've been both of those people in my career, so I'm not saying that I'm above or below. It's stuff you learn along the way. And if you're one of those that's trying to change behavior behind a keyboard, let us challenge you here, right? Push the keyboard aside, go try it face to face. You might sweat profusely and your heart might pound, but you'll get over it, right? And so I got some really good advice too, many years ago from from someone who said, "Look, when you go to these difficult conversations, which you're all going to have, if it's with your spouse, if it's with which is the most difficult because
Yep.
you got to be really careful. You don't want to win at all costs." But
well, I work with my spouse, so we that's a double-edged sword sometimes. Got to tread lightly.
Let's turn the page and not even have this conversation.
Yeah, right.
No, but so the advice that well, you've probably heard him. If you haven't bought his book, I highly recommend Michael Gerber's The E-Myth: Why Most Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. I had the good fortune to sit at Michael Gerber's feet for 3 years, every Thursday. Him and his group were mentors to me in my late 20s, early 30s. At any rate, the counsel I got that I keep with me this day is when you go into those difficult conversations, Sometimes you just need to see yourself slip into a Batman suit, a Superman suit, a Special Forces warrior suit. And that's how you get the courage to go into those. Because for everyone, it's not easy, right? There are very few people who are born just really just want to be so combative. Most of us, we just want to work it out. And some people need to envision. So just challenge you again, your listeners, you may have to see yourself slip into a different suit to go through that and come
Mm-hmm.
back out of it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, like anything, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Good, reminder for myself as well, because it's there's a lot of I don't like confrontation. I don't think a lot of us do. Like you said, that there's some people that do, but we don't want to hurt feelings. We don't want to say something that, what if we push them away? What if we do this? But by not saying those things, by not having those conversations, they employees, friends, spouses can get the interpretation that you're not interested or not invested or not doing those things too. So the thing we want to avoid of pushing people away can actually be amplified because of the lack of one-on-one attention or feedback, or those things that people are so much craving.
Yep. Yeah, there's another, it's a very valid point. And folks sometimes, as I have in my career, you got you receive the label of just being weak-kneed or spineless because you just, hey, you're busy, you want to move on, right? And then so that there are many times where you have to, and I have to say it several times a year, do not mistake my kindness, right, for weakness, right? Because I will slip into that suit and we will correct this the hard way. I'm being kind to allow you to come into the space. And every once in a while, you have to do that. It's not a game, right? But every once in a while, you have to remind them, my kindness is not a weakness. My kindness is for you to get on this journey with me and us to go. But I will slip into this suit, right? And we can play hardball, right? Because
Mm.
that's what happens when we try to be nice, but we avoid conflict at all costs, right? And by the way, for young managers, there's two types of management styles. One is conflict and one is tension, right? Tension is very, very valuable. Conflict just destroys cultures, right? So ratcheting up the tension a little bit and challenging your staff or your people or even your children, right? To not forget to take out the garbage or whatever. That tension is okay. Conflict is demoralizing, right? And so just to know that there's ladders to that, it's kind of important. I got off on a tangent there, Dave, but I'm passionate about this stuff.
Good.
So
No, good tangent. And speaking of, along that same tangent, speaking of, culture and having that environment where feedback is welcome, and where, a healthy way to challenge each other, both challenge your employees, but if you're a boss, like, be able to welcome challenging as well, where there's some people that might like to give feedback, but don't receive feedback so well. And what advice would you have for creating a culture that kind of welcomes in that vulnerability, that ability to have people speak up, ability for people to fail and not feel like they're gonna like their job's on the line every time they slip up in what they say or what they do?
yeah, so as a leader, you have a couple different hats you need to wear here, right? So one is not everyone's comfortable doing that. No matter how open your culture is, they fear retribution, right? You cannot eradicate that. I'm sorry. I mean, you can try your best, but it's just difficult. But you can open it up to that, but you can also look for those cues, right? And you know the cues when they really don't look you in the eye when they're saying something, then there's more there, or they're really kind of hunched forward. I mean, these are skill sets you develop over time, and you have to stop and look deeper. Like, okay, the way Dave delivered that to me was something else was wrapped into there. And so let me go back out and see and ask for that feedback then. So because sometimes if you say open-ended questions, tell me what you think of your job here. Well, what are they going to say to the boss? I love it, you're wonderful, or this stinks, or whatever. But hey, Dave, it seems like we aren't aligned on how we do X here. Why don't you give me your feedback so I can either give you my viewpoint, or maybe I can, come to your side and let's see. You really have to dial that in. And again, that's part of growing as a leader. And that's what's so fantastic, because no one's born with all these skill sets, man. I mean, everyone can point to Steve Jobs, but one of the greatest things he says, if you want to make everyone happy, don't be a leader, sell ice cream, right? Because ice cream sells people, make everyone happy. In leadership, you're going to offend some people, but you also get really good at trying to, or realizing who doesn't agree with you. And you don't have to destroy that person. You can just say, Dave, we're going down this path. It seems like you don't want to go down it. That's fine. I wish you the best of luck. but this boat is leaving and I'm taking these people down here. Hopefully we'll see you on another shore, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
something. And it doesn't have to be that difficult if you guys can't align or agree.
And how is there any strategies you have for identifying, and I guess I don't know if I want to call them red flags, caution flags, anything when we talk like hiring process for people who are looking to bring on people? Are there things that people need to be aware of for and I don't know the people that might be more combative, might be more challenging in a negative way?
Yeah, I say we test a lot. We test for personalities. We test for skill sets, and so typically we'll test, 3 different tests before someone even comes to the door. It's not the most HR friendly way to do it, right? But uh, I I would submit this to you: one bad hire can destroy your entire culture, right? One bad hire can set you back a decade. Absolutely, right? And so in addition to testing, it's also those that are going to be working with that person, give them the power to interview, right? We have, not to everyone's happiness, but we have 3 to 5 hour interview sessions, right? And so someone comes in and is like, okay, this is a half a day commitment to you to see if there's a fit. You're going to be interviewed by 8 or 10 people. You're probably going to be asked the same question 10 times. Just be aware of that, right? That being said, we rarely lose people, right? So our employee retention's in the low 90s, 92,
Wow.
93, and I'm talking over a 25-year span. Man, that's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
So hiring is, the recruiting process is equally as important as the re-recruiting process of keeping your current employees happy. So yeah.
And in terms of retention strategies, and I don't know the numbers on it, but I know, and I believe one of the highest, the feedbacks of what people are looking for as employees is one-on-one direct mentoring, direct supervision. What kind of retention strategies do you guys use to keep employees happy, to keep them making them feeling like they're making a difference, but also growing the way that you talked about earlier, that people so desperately want to continue to grow?
Yeah, so you're thinking in terms of 2 things here. So one, you might not want to re-recruit everyone, right? Maybe maybe a bad apple got through, and it's best just to part ways. And there are many companies. I have several friends that run very large companies whose sole focus is to get rid of the bottom 10% of their every year, just because they're not committed or engaged. But we look at it, or I look at it differently, as re-recruiting our keepers, and we re-recruit the people we want to keep every single year, right? And you hit the nail on the head. It's one-on-one, right? And making sure they're heard. Now, listen, everyone's after more income. I mean, that's a driver. That's why we do what we do, right? Well, those that are passionate about entrepreneurship would do it for free. That's why people flock to us, right?
Yep.
But money does, liquefy and lube everything to get to go around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's important. But people typically don't just leave for money. People leave companies because of bad bosses or not feeling like they're valued. Those are the 2 big reasons. Now, if it's a giant income and pay, yeah, they're going to leave. But the majority of people leave, they don't feel valued, and they leave bad bosses and bad management. And so when someone leaves, you can't re-recruit your keepers if you don't do an exit interview. And I'll just, excuse my French, I'll just say, what do we suck at? All right, just tell me what we suck at. Since you're leaving, you love to give me a big punch to the gut. I want this punch to the gut. Give it to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So please freely unload. It's invaluable, the feedback you would get, right? When you lose 2 or 3 really to the same person's management style, or if it's your own time for deep reflection, then it lets you, tweak that person's skill sets. You need to go get messaging training, right? Or you need to manage on the other side of the keyboard and face to face, right? Because it comes across as aggressive the other way. So the short answer is re-recruit your keepers, and maybe not everyone's worth keeping.
Mm-hmm. That's really good, Jeff. And the recurring theme with that too is having those tough conversations even on the way out. I'm sure it's easier for people. The temptation is there to just say, well, they're gone. Like let's cut ties, like just move on to the next one and we'll get it better next time. But putting yourself out there and opening up that door for that feedback and for that what do we suck at? Where can we improve is probably a uncomfortable thing, but a necessary thing as well.
Yeah, you both want to party. If you've left somewhere or someone leaves your employee that you're super happy with, you both want to party. Let's be honest, right? Can't
Yeah.
wait to close the door. Can't wait till they're gone. Give me your badge, your keys, and go. But you miss a good feedback piece, right? And if you're not open for continuous loop feedback, then you really don't know what's the pulse of your company, right? It's a false sense of understanding that you have. And if you
Hmm.
really want to be a good company, it doesn't have to be the biggest. If you want to be the best, you need to understand the culture.
Yeah, that's really good.
Culture, by the way, that is what happens when you're not in the business or in the room. That's the culture
Mm.
of your company, right? When you aren't there, and the things that are done when you aren't there, that's your true culture, right? So, just for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder for people, and that applies to the from the like productivity. What kind of work are you putting out too? If you have to be there for the needle to get pushed forward, if you have to be there for results to happen, that's a problem. But if you're not there and conversations, the tone changes and the feel changes and everything too. I love that, because that's a good easy gauge of how your company's culture is.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I love, I love talking on the employee side of things, because, that's everyone's goal is to, if they're not already at that point, to get to that point where they can bring on some of those and step into more of that leadership role. But I want to circle back to something you said earlier too, about just when we talk customer service in general, of it sounds like you were saying, having a system in place, where a lot of people would say, oh, our customer service is good, or we invest a lot of time into it. But it sounds like, I'm guessing, a lot of people don't really have that clearly defined. Can you speak a little more on that problem of having a system in place, having a clearly defined process to know how you're actually doing in that area, versus just, oh, we're doing good.
Yeah, so I'll give you another quip, another saying, because as the books behind me attest to, I read a lot. But so consensus odds are often, consensus decisions are often at odds with intelligent ones, right? So groupthink is often horrible, right? Consensus decisions are at odds with smart ones or intelligent ones. And so, again, in that group thing, like you're talking about, do you give good customer service? Oh, we get fantastic customer service. By whose definition? Was
Mm.
there an intelligent design of the customer service experience? No, but it's my consensus. Well, that's at odds with the smart consensus, right? Because every McDonald's drive-through employee says they give great customer service. Anybody raising your hand listening that's saying you got great customer service at McDonald's? No, no, rare, right? One rare diamond out of tens of thousands. And I'm not knocking them, right? They just haven't been given the skill set. But when you have an intelligent design and a belief that this is how we're going to deliver it, right? Like, no one will get through our drive-through that's a dirty screen or a broken letter or a broken signing. There's not going to be cups and trash in our drive-through, or
Mm.
even in your, a physical therapy business, right? There will be no sweaty, dirty kind of equipment or whatever. And when you walk in, you're going to smell orange or vanilla or something fresh that doesn't smell like sweat, right? I mean, these are things that you always have radar going off on you, whether you know it or not. Any business you walk on, you're judging it. And smell is one of the first things. That's why you want to find out what your smell is and imbue that into your process. Find out what your vibe is and make sure that's the first thing you see. If you've got somebody that's got an ugly scowl on their face just by birth, by design, they might be friendly, but that's the first thing you see. They're not the first person to see, right?
Mm.
It's just, you got to move them. That might be the job they were hired for, but look, I'm not attractive. I don't want to be the first thing that people see when they walk in, right? I mean, I can make up for it in joviality and confidence, but I'm not the first face you want to see in a business. It would be out of business. All these things matter, right? Is all I'm saying. And so if you don't intelligently design the experience that you want as a business owner, then it's going to be left to what they think is good customer service. And that's going to be at odds with what real customer service is, right?
Mhm.
So this next statement is absolutely true. People are driven to distraction, right? So few people are focused on engaging and bettering themselves or whatever. They're driven to the next website, the next scroll, the next social media app, the next post, the next tweet, whatever it is. We are all driven to distraction. And so their distraction means that they're giving your customers the best experience that they know how, right? You have to redirect them and say, this is the only customer service experience we're trying to deliver. And so This stuff's easy to go to sleep over, but for those businesses that take it to heart, it's just a wow factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we, and I'm not trying to push our business, but we have, tens of thousands of customers, policyholders, and we do very little advertising. So people say, well, how do you do that? And we use just a four-letter thing. It's called PWOM, PWOM, and it's positive word of mouth. That's how people find out about us. And you think, oh, what a silly marketing message. No, because if you get everything right, they can't wait to hang up the phone or leave your website and tell other people about you. And so that's what business owners have to think about. That's my message for them anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, so many people, if you ask the majority of business owners out there, where do you get referrals from? I'm sure a large percentage would say, oh, well, word of mouth. And people do this, like people referring other people, friends, family, word of mouth is, a popular response. But how many people do you see actually like having a process or having something to, to make sure that they're getting more of that? Because if you're just letting word of mouth happen, like if you do good work, you would hope that people are going to, occasionally send people, but how do you accelerate that? How do you actually form a strategy around that to, like, it sounds like you've done of actually, building that versus just kind of passively hoping people are sent your way?
Yeah, like anything in business, what gets measured gets done, right? If you're not measuring it, your people aren't focused on it because they're driven to distraction, right? So what gets measured gets done. And so at the beginning or the salutation end of every phone call, how did you find out about us specifically? Because I want to reward that person. We want to send them a Starbucks gift card. We want to say thank you. And so when you start measuring that, it starts getting tracked and it starts getting done. And now you have to commit financial resources to it, but you're going to commit financial resources to marketing anyway. And this, for sure, because a referral is a laydown or a layup in basketball. It's a done deal generally, right? I mean, you have to really do something egregious if their best friend referred them to you and they don't become a client, right? Then the problem is you, not them, right? So at least And so, what gets measured gets done, and you just have to work your processes around measuring it all.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. And the other question I had along with customer service, when you talk about, sights and smells and the first person they see and all these things, how is a business owner, a manager, someone in this situation, how do you look at your business with fresh eyes, with a fresh perspective? Because I think we, at least in our business, we assume certain things because we see it as we know it to be, but that's not necessarily what our customers are seeing. That's not necessarily what our new clients are seeing. What are some ways that you can get a fresh look to really get an unbiased view of what your customer experience is or your client journey?
Yeah, I love this question because so want to answer so quick, right? But there's two ways to do it. There's others, but the two that we use is most of the times when you exit your car and you're walking into your business, pre-pandemic, right?
Right.
Your mind is consumed with your to-do list or avoiding something or getting something done. You put the key card up or you turn the lock and you're not even thinking about what you're walking across that threshold. And our counsel guidance would be just suspend everything for a moment, act like you're a customer. And the minute that door opens, what do you see? Is it dust on the floor? Is it a dirty place, right? If there's a screen between you and the customers, is it dirty and spit filled, right? You know what I mean? Just full of all kinds of stuff. What's the smell like, right? Because that's the sensory thing. The eyes is just one part of it. You're feeling, smelling, hearing what's going on. What is that like? Well, if you're so engaged in your to-do list and thinking, you're missing that. And then so the best thing is just suspend everything going on in your mind, walk in like a customer. And then another one is, I want to get to this back, another point, sorry, Dave, but another thing we try to do all the time, or I do all the time, is I would call our call centers and see how long I'm on hold, right? From blocked numbers, because I don't want them changing the behavior just because it's Jeff Arnold on the phone, right? So call from a blocked number, like, all right, you hit all 5 benchmarks on the greeting. Great. Thank you. Have a nice day. Go to the next call. Right. So do the same, right? Become a customer at your business if you can. I often will buy stuff from us anonymously too, just to see how the fulfillment went. And then the other piece is go to your competitors, right? Somebody somewhere has more time, is younger, or smarter and is beating you at your own game, right? Just like some kid somewhere is tinkering with the idea in his computer in his room, and he's going to disrupt the Bitcoin industry or the insurance or the banking. He's going to everything, right? And so go into your competitors. Who cares if they know it's you? Spend money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just go in to see and have dialogue with them. But see how others are doing it, because you could have gotten sloppy, right? Or not thought of it in that way. But also suspend everything you going on in your mind and walk into your door as a customer. So my answers are getting longer, Dave. Sorry.
No, I love it, Jeff. It's been so good too. I love the talking things on employees and hiring and training and the systems and the customer experience. And I'm already soaking up a lot and taking some notes down. So
Awesome.
love your knowledge on that. And as we start to wrap up here, one a little more of a personal question, especially for listeners. We try and be as real as we can here of someone like yourself who's seen so much business success. And we talk about the the onset of this episode of entrepreneurship is a challenging journey, and it can be hard. And sometimes though it's easy to look from the outside and see someone who's experienced business success and experienced these things. And it's the unfortunate myth out there with social media with all these things is that it's come easy and that it's been without challenges and it's been this smooth journey. But if you don't mind being open about what's been a major challenge either recently or something earlier on that can maybe encourage listeners that you've run into from a business side of things, from a personal side of things, some insight you can give listeners for the journey that might look smooth, but we know that it's
Yeah.
not really the case.
Yeah, so I have failed way more times than I've succeeded, right? And been curled up in a ball, many, many times crying and at 30 and 40 years old going, dear Lord, how can I, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so, and not to plug my book, but my first book, The Art of the Insurance Deal, I talk about how after I sold my company to a bank, my identity was gone, right? I run the company so long, your identity's gone. And then I ended up running a large, several divisions for them. And it went bankrupt literally in mid 2007 in the crash. You'd think that would be enough, but I'm not making these numbers up. I turned around and got sued for $1 billion, right? You can't make this up. If you ever want to know what a dark, lonely place the world can be, get sued for $1 billion and wondering what's going to happen to your 4 kids and your wife and your house. It's all consuming, right? For 2 years. And so, I talk a lot about it in The Art of the Insurance Deal, but that was a very tough one to get over, right? And then later, there was I think a lot of men can identify with this. I'm not trying to be sexist, but I grew up, I think we said in the beginning, in Kentucky, so I didn't have a real formal college education as a junior college kind of education. And so when I'm working in some large companies with 5, 6, 7,000 employees, I'm working alongside Ivy League degree guys. I'm working
Mm-hmm.
alongside, just top of the class kind of people. And you can second guess everything that you know. But it turns out we're hitting a lot more home runs than they are, right?
Right.
But when you're in there, there's a real time where you second guess everything. And so if you can't be your biggest cheerleader, who's going to be, right? So you got to dig deep into that belly and motivate yourself, because I can tell you this, you will know failure, and you will know failure more than you want to know it, but you have to keep on keeping on,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what differentiates the winners from the losers, right? Fall down 7, get up 8. So
Yeah. Fall down 7,000, get up. That's probably a more accurate number, but no, I appreciate you sharing that, Jeff. That's great. I've loved our talk. Where can people, find you, reach out to your business, your books, where can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, the easiest was my personal website, jeffarnold.com. That's JEFFARNOLD.com. And I post articles there once a quarter, and then 2 of my books are up there now. One will be up there later. But happy to engage with any of your listeners. I have truly enjoyed this.
Yes, thanks so much, Jeff. And I know the listeners will get a lot out of it, especially those and not just I know we talk a lot on business today, but these things can all be applied to our personal lives as well. And I think that's a important point to end on is I know not everyone being in business for themselves necessarily, but these are principles that asking for feedback and being able to have that open environment is going to be good in your family, with your children, with spouse, with significant others. So thanks so much for sharing all that, Jeff, and really appreciate our time here today.
Same. Thank you.